Grandma Nora had always been gentle. She lived with her son David, his wife Claire, and their teenage son Liam in a quiet suburban home. Nora didn't talk much. She moved slowly, often sitting for hours in her favorite old wooden chair beside the window. Every morning, she'd wake up early, wrap a warm shawl around her shoulders, and sit by the window, just watching. Watching the trees, watching the clouds, watching something. No one ever asked what. David loved his mother, but life was busy. He worked long hours, and Claire had her hands full managing the house and Liam's school. Nora never complained. She never asked for anything. But something had changed in her eyes lately. A kind of heaviness. A kind of fear. One evening, David sat beside Nora with a gentle smile. "Mom, Claire and I need to travel next weekend. Just for 3 days. A small conference. Liam will be with friends. We've booked a room for you at Green Hill Care Home. It's peaceful. You'll like it." Nora's face went pale. Her hands trembled slightly. She didn't look at David. She looked past him. Then she said quietly, "No, please, don't leave me alone. Not there. Not anywhere." David frowned. "Mom, it's just for a few days. You'll have company. Nurses. Clean rooms." Nora's voice rose, sharp and afraid. "Please, David, I'm begging you. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be alone." Claire entered the room, concerned. "What's wrong, Nora?" But Nora didn't answer. She just looked at the hallway behind them, as if someone was standing there. But no one was. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Liam passed by Grandma's room. He paused. He heard the click of a lock. Curious, he knocked softly. "Grandma." No answer. He pressed his ear to the door. He heard her breathing. Soft, shaky. Then her voice, barely a whisper. "He's still here. He never left." The next morning, Nora was quiet again, as if nothing happened. She sat in her usual chair, her eyes fixed on the same trees outside. Liam watched her from the staircase. Something about the way she sat, so still, so tense. It wasn't peace. It was like she was waiting for something. Or someone. At breakfast, David tried to joke. "You know, Mom, Green Hill has bingo nights. You used to love bingo." Nora didn't smile. She just stirred her tea slowly and said, "There are things in this world you don't play with. Things that wait for silence." David exchanged a worried glance with Claire. "I think she's just confused," Claire said gently. "She's getting older." But Liam wasn't so sure. That night, he went into the attic and brought down an old photo album. He wanted to know more about his grandmother, her past, her childhood. But when he brought it to her, she didn't even look at it. She just said, "Some memories are better left in the dark." The next few days passed quietly. But the air in the house felt heavier. Liam noticed Grandma had started checking the locks on all the doors at night. 3 times. Sometimes 4. He asked her why. She said, "If you knew what I knew, you'd never sleep with the lights off." Finally, the day of the trip came. David and Claire packed their bags. The car was waiting. Nora stood by the stairs, clutching her small bag. She looked smaller than ever. David gave her a hug. "It'll be all right, Mom. Just 3 days." She held him tight, too tight. Then she whispered into his ear, "If something happens to me, don't believe it was an accident." David stepped back, confused. "What do you mean?" But she just looked at him with tired, watery eyes, like someone who had already said goodbye. They dropped her off at Green Hill Care Home. The staff was kind. The room was neat and quiet. But as the door closed behind her, Nora sat on the edge of the bed. And for the first time in years, she cried. That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Grandma's face when she said, "He never left." Who was she talking about? What was she so afraid of? He stared at the old photo album again. And then he noticed something strange. One picture had been ripped out. Only the torn corner of it remained. And on it, a girl's hand holding what looked like a small white rabbit. Liam felt a chill run down his back. He didn't know why, but something told him. This story wasn't just about age. It was about a secret that never died. The care home was quiet. Too quiet. Grandma Nora sat alone in her small room, staring at the plain white wall. The nurse had brought her tea and told her to rest. But Nora didn't drink. She didn't sleep. Her eyes stayed open, watching, waiting. Because she knew the silence wasn't empty. It was hiding something. Back at home, Liam couldn't stop thinking about her. He kept seeing her face, that look of fear when she said, "Don't leave me alone." He told his parents, but they said Nora just needed time. "She's old, Liam," his dad said. Sometimes, old memories play tricks on the mind. But Liam didn't believe that. Because that night, something strange happened. Liam was in his room when he heard it. A soft knock. He got up and opened his door. No one was there. He walked to the hallway. And suddenly, the lights flickered, then stopped. He stood still. No noise, no sound, just his own breathing. Then, a whisper. "Eliza." He turned fast. But again, no one. Just the cold air around him. He ran back to his room and locked the door. At the care home, Nora sat up suddenly. She heard something too. A soft knock on her window. She was on the second floor. Her hands trembled. "Not again," she whispered. She got up and turned on the lamp. The hallway outside her room was dark. Too dark. She opened the door slightly and paused. There on the floor lay a small stuffed rabbit. Old, torn, just like the one Eliza had carried. Nora stepped back in shock. She had burned that toy decades ago, hadn't she? The next day, Liam tried to ask his parents again. "Did Grandma ever have a sister?" he asked. David looked confused. No, she never mentioned one. But Liam had a feeling that wasn't true. He remembered the missing photo from the album. The ripped page. The rabbit in the corner. That toy wasn't just some childhood thing. It meant something. At the care home, a nurse entered Nora's room to check on her. But Nora wasn't there. The bed was untouched, the tea still full. The nurse looked around. "Mrs. Nora." Then she noticed Nora was sitting in the corner, her eyes wide open, her lips moving quietly. Don't take her again. Please." Later that night, Nora called the house. Liam picked up. "Grandma," he said. "Liam," she whispered, "you have to listen to me." Her voice was shaking, almost breaking. "Don't let them leave me here. He comes when it's quiet. He wears a hat. He smiles when you cry." Liam felt cold all over. "Who, Grandma? Who comes?" But the line went silent. Then, click, she hung up. At dinner, Liam told his parents about the call. David grew upset. "She's just scared, Liam. Don't feed into her stories." But Claire looked worried. "She never used to be like this," she said softly. "Something's wrong." That night, Liam couldn't sleep again. He stared at the photo album. Then, suddenly, he saw it. A name written faintly in pencil on the last page. Eliza, 1963. His heart raced. Eliza wasn't a story. She was real. And whatever happened to her, Grandma still remembered. Still feared. In the dark room of the care home, Nora lay awake. The lights above her bed flickered. She turned her head slowly. In the mirror on the wall, a small handprint appeared. Too small to be hers, too fresh to be old. She whispered one name, Eliza, and then she heard the footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming closer. She closed her eyes and prayed. Liam couldn't get the name out of his head. Eliza. That soft handwriting in the photo album, it didn't match the rest. It looked older, worn, like someone wrote it in secret. He turned the page again, but it was still missing. A photo had been there once. Now, only the torn edge remained, a girl's hand, and a stuffed rabbit. The same rabbit Grandma saw outside her door. Liam waited until his parents were asleep. He got out of bed quietly, pulled on a hoodie, and opened the attic door. Dust danced in the moonlight as he climbed the old steps. The attic was filled with boxes. Some were sealed. Others looked untouched for years. He opened one labeled Nora, 1960s. Inside, he found letters, old photographs, a notebook. He flipped through the notebook. Most of the pages were blank. But near the end, he found a note. If Eliza ever returns, don't speak to her. Don't open the door. Don't follow the whispers. Liam froze. Who was Eliza? At the care home, Nora was sitting by the window again. But this time, she wasn't looking outside. She was staring at her reflection. I know you're near, she said softly. You always come when they leave me alone. A nurse entered. Mrs. Nora, are you talking to someone? Nora just smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. I'm talking to someone I buried a long time ago. Back in the attic, Liam found a folded newspaper clipping. It was old and yellow. The headline read, Young girl drowns in family pond. Sister says she vanished first. He read the story with wide eyes. Eliza Miller, age 9, was reported missing from her family's farmhouse. Her sister, Nora, said Eliza vanished from the field near the woods. Days later, her body was found in the pond behind the house. The case was closed as an accident, but neighbors whispered strange things about shadows in the trees and how Nora had been heard screaming. She's not dead. She's still here. Liam dropped the paper. His heart pounded. That girl, Eliza, was Grandma Nora's sister. But why had she never told anyone? Why had she hidden it for so long? Liam called the care home. The nurse answered. Can I talk to my grandma, please? He asked. She's resting, the nurse replied. Did something happen? Liam paused. Just tell her. I know about Eliza. There was silence on the line. Then the nurse said, I'll let her know. An hour later, Liam's phone rang. It was Grandma Nora. Her voice was weak, shaky. You read the article, didn't you? She asked. Liam nodded, even though she couldn't see him. I didn't mean to forget her, Nora whispered. She was my best friend, my only friend. But she started changing. Liam leaned closer to the phone. She stopped sleeping. She started drawing strange things. Black figures, doors that weren't real. Then one day, she disappeared. When we found her, her eyes were open, but they were empty. Liam swallowed hard. Was it an accident? Nora was silent for a long time. Then she said, No. That night, Nora didn't sleep. She stood by the window and watched the trees. The wind moved through the branches like soft whispers. And then, she saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the garden. Small, still, holding a white rabbit. Nora stepped back. Her hand shook as she reached for the drawer. Inside was a photo. The missing photo. Eliza's face, smiling. But in her eyes, something wasn't right. Back at home, Liam had a nightmare. In it, he saw a girl in a white dress standing in water. She reached out to him. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Just a whisper in the wind. Why did she leave me? He woke up gasping. He didn't know if the question was for him or for Nora. The next day, Liam couldn't stay quiet. He sat at breakfast, staring at his cereal, thinking about the photo, the letter, the dream. He looked up at his parents. Did Grandma ever live on a farm? He asked suddenly. David raised an eyebrow. Long time ago. Why? Liam hesitated. Did she have a sister? Claire froze. No, David said. She was an only child. Liam didn't answer, because now he knew they didn't know the truth either. At the care home, Nora was packing a small bag. The nurses told her not to worry, that the doctor would visit soon. But she wasn't worried about doctors. She was preparing for something else. She tucked an old photo of Eliza into her sweater. Then, slowly, she pulled a small iron key from a chain around her neck. Her fingers trembled. That key hadn't been used in 60 years. Back at home, Liam returned to the attic. He opened a second box labeled Miller Farm, basement files. Inside was a map of the old property, Grandma's childhood home. It was hand-drawn, faded, but there was something odd. A square in the back corner of the basement, labeled Eliza's room. But what caught Liam's eye was the note next to it. Door sealed, never open. His heart beat faster. A door. In the basement. That night, Liam searched online. The Miller farm still existed, but it was abandoned now. Empty. He copied the address and saved it. Something told him he'd need to go there soon. At the care home, strange things started happening again. One nurse swore she saw a little girl run through the hallway. Another heard soft singing, a child's voice. When they checked the rooms, they found nothing. But Nora knew. "She's close," Nora whispered. That night, she left her room quietly. She moved slowly down the old wooden stairs, past the nurse station, past the living room, down to the locked storage room in the basement. She took out the key, the same key she hadn't touched in decades, and unlocked the old door. Inside was only darkness. But she whispered, "I'm here now." Meanwhile, Liam couldn't sleep again. His phone buzzed. It was a photo. No name, no number, just a photo. It showed a wooden door, painted red, old, and written across it, in chalk, Eliza's room. Liam dropped his phone. Who sent that? How did they get his number? And most importantly, where was that door? Nora stood in the storage room. She looked at the mirror on the far wall. In its reflection, she could see the past. 2 girls running in the fields. Eliza's laugh. Then the screams. Then the silence. And now, the waiting. Liam made a decision. He had to go to the farm. He packed a bag, took a flashlight, and left a note in his room. "I have to know the truth." He didn't tell his parents. He knew they wouldn't believe him. That night, as thunder rolled in the sky, Liam reached the old Miller farm. The gate was broken. The house leaned to one side, forgotten by time. But as he walked up the path, something strange happened. The porch light flickered on, even though the house had no electricity. Inside, everything was still. Dust covered the furniture. Spiderwebs hung like curtains. But in the back of the house, Liam found it. The basement door. He stepped down carefully, one wooden stair at a time. Then he saw it. At the end of the hallway, behind old boxes, a red door, just like in the photo. And written on it, Eliza's room. He reached for the handle. It was ice cold. He took a deep breath and slowly began to turn it. Liam's fingers trembled as they touched the doorknob. The red paint was peeling. The chalk writing, Eliza's room, looked fresh, as if someone had written it just yesterday. But this house, it was abandoned for years. He turned the handle slowly. It creaked, loud and heavy, like the door hadn't been opened in decades. He stepped inside, and what he saw made him freeze. The room looked untouched. A little girl's room. A small wooden bed. A dusty tea set on the floor. A teddy bear sitting on a chair near the window. But everything was too still. Too perfect. As if time had stopped the moment Eliza disappeared. Liam took slow steps forward. He looked at the walls. They were covered with drawings, childlike pictures. At first, they seemed normal. Flowers, trees, a house. But then, the drawings change. Dark shapes, black eyes, figures hiding behind the trees. One picture showed a girl standing in a pond. Another showed a girl lying in the water. Liam's heart pounded. He moved closer to the bed. There was something under the pillow. A notebook. He picked it up. The first page said, "My name is Eliza. If someone finds this, I'm still here." Back at the care home, Nora sat up in bed suddenly. Her heart raced. She whispered to herself. Someone opened the door. She tried to stand, but her legs were weak. She rang the nurse bell. When the nurse arrived, Nora grabbed her hand. "Call my grandson. Tell him not to open the notebook, not to read the last page." The nurse nodded nervously and ran to the phone. But Liam had already turned the pages. The notebook was filled with Eliza's writing. At first, it was happy. She wrote about her days, her games, how much she loved her sister Nora. But halfway through, the tone changed. Words became shaky. Letters larger. Angrier. "I hear them at night. The man in the field watches me. Nora says I'm imagining it, but I know what I saw." Then came a page that chilled Liam to the bone. He said I could come back, but I had to give something in return. Liam turned to the last page. It had only one line. "Tell Nora it wasn't her fault, but she left me anyway." Suddenly, a wind blew through the room. The door slammed shut behind him. The air turned cold. Very cold. Liam tried to open the door. It wouldn't move. He banged on it. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Then a whisper filled the room. Not loud, not angry, just sad. "You found me. But why did it take so long?" Liam turned around. In the corner stood a girl. White dress, wet hair, bare feet, holding a stuffed rabbit. She looked about 9 years old. But her eyes, they weren't the eyes of a child. They were tired, lonely. Liam whispered, "Eliza." She nodded slowly. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. Liam stepped back. "I'm Nora's grandson. She never forgot you." Eliza's face changed, softened. "She was the only one who saw him," Eliza whispered. "She tried to protect me, but I didn't listen." At the care home, Nora stared at the mirror. "Eliza," she whispered, "he found someone new, didn't he?" The lights flickered. She stood slowly, using her cane, and began to pray under her breath. Back in the room, Eliza looked at Liam. "I waited," she said. "I waited for someone brave enough to come." Liam's voice shook. "Why me?" "Because you're not afraid of the truth," she said, "even when it hurts." She walked to the bed and placed the rabbit down gently. Then she looked at the wall behind the bed. "Push it," she whispered. Liam stared. "A hidden door?" he asked. Eliza didn't answer. She just disappeared, like smoke in the wind. Liam walked to the wall and pressed his hand against it. It felt hollow. He pushed harder. The panel creaked open. Behind it, stairs, leading down, into darkness. Liam took one deep breath, turned on his flashlight, and stepped inside. Liam's heart beat loudly in his chest as he stepped down the hidden stairs. Each step creaked under his weight. The air grew colder. Dust floated like mist in the beam of his flashlight. At the bottom was a narrow hallway made of stone. He whispered, "This can't be real." But it was, and something was waiting for him at the end. Back at the care home, Nora sat in a chair by the mirror. Her eyes closed, her lips moving in prayer. She clutched the key in her hand. The nurse returned, phone in hand. "Your grandson. He's not answering." Nora opened her eyes. "It's already begun," she whispered. Liam reached the end of the hallway. There was a wooden door, much older than the one above. Burned into the wood was a strange symbol, like a circle with sharp edges. His flashlight flickered. He reached for the handle and opened the door. Inside was a small room. Stone walls, no windows, a single chair in the center. And in that chair, a man, or what once was a man. His skin was pale and dry, like old paper. Eyes closed, head down. Liam stepped closer. Then the man's head slowly lifted. His eyes opened, black, empty. "You should not be here," he said in a deep, dry voice. Liam froze. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "I am what they locked away, what Eliza saw, what Nora feared." Liam took a step back. The man's voice grew louder. "They buried me in silence, fed me fear, and now I rise again." Suddenly, Liam saw them, shadows moving along the walls, whispers in the air, dozens of voices, crying, laughing, screaming. Liam shouted, "What do you want?" The man leaned forward. "I want what I was promised, a life." At that moment, in the care home, Nora stood up. She placed the key on the table. "I'm coming, Eliza," she said softly. She left her room, ignoring the nurses calling her name. She knew where she had to go. Liam turned and ran. The shadows followed him, crawling like smoke. He climbed the stairs, pushed through the secret panel, and slammed the red doors shut. The whispers stopped. Silence returned. He fell to the floor, shaking. Then, the door creaked again, not from behind, but from in front of him. He looked up. Nora stood there, his mouth opened in shock. "Grandma." She didn't speak. She walked slowly into the room. Her hand touched the red door gently. "I thought it was sealed forever," she said. Liam stood. What was that thing? Nora's eyes filled with tears. "My sister, Eliza, saw him first. Nobody believed her, but I did." She turned to Liam. "He was a man once, a cruel man, obsessed with power. They say he tried to trap death itself, but death trapped him instead." She looked down. "He spoke to children, promised them things." Eliza listened, and he took her. Liam felt cold all over. "I saw her," he whispered. "She's still here." Nora smiled sadly. "She's been waiting for me." Nora took the notebook from Liam's hand. She flipped to the last page. Her eyes watered. "She never blamed me, even after all this time." She looked up at the mirror, and slowly Eliza appeared in it, clearer than ever. She looked like she did in the old photo, innocent, gentle, waiting. "Eliza," Nora whispered, "I'm sorry I left you." Eliza nodded once. The door behind them began to glow. The red paint faded into soft white light. The fear disappeared. The shadows were gone. The man in the basement was silent. The spell was breaking. Eliza's soul was finally free, and so was Nora's heart. Liam walked with Nora out of the old house. The wind was gentle now, the air peaceful. As they left, the house creaked one final time, and then stood still, as if it had said its last goodbye. But just as Liam turned to go, he saw something, a small teddy bear, sitting on the porch, smiling. Liam held the teddy bear in his hands. It was soft, but old, one eye missing, a red ribbon around its neck. He remembered it from the room upstairs, the one where Eliza had stood. But now it was on the porch, left behind, or left for someone. He turned to Nora. "Do you want to keep it?" he asked. Nora looked at it and smiled softly. "That was her favorite toy," she whispered. She called it Mr. Buttons. Her hands trembled as she took it gently from him. Then she hugged it, like she hadn't done in over 60 years. That night, back at the care home, Nora was quiet. She sat by the window again, just like she always did. But this time, there was no fear in her eyes, only peace. She told the nurse, "I saw her, my Eliza. She waited all this time, just for a goodbye." The nurse smiled politely, thinking Nora was just dreaming. But Nora knew the truth, and so did Liam. The next morning, Liam returned to the old house. He wanted to make sure everything was really over. The house looked different in the sunlight. Not haunted, not dark, just empty. He walked around the outside. Everything was still, as if the past had finally let go. He stepped onto the porch one last time and saw something carved into the wood. Small, hidden near the step. It read, "Thank you, Nora." Back at the care home, Nora dressed herself carefully. White sweater, old pearl necklace, the one Eliza used to admire as a child. She brushed her hair, smiled at her reflection, and said, "It's time." Then she lay on her bed, Mr. Buttons in her arms. She closed her eyes and took a slow, deep breath. The nurse came an hours later. She was still, peaceful, smiling, like she had just seen someone she loved, one last time. At the funeral, Liam gave a short speech. He spoke of her strength, her kindness, and a past that had finally found peace. Most people just nodded politely, but Liam knew the full truth. And as he placed the teddy bear in the casket, he whispered, "She's waiting for you now." That night, as the wind moved gently through the trees near the old house, a light flickered in the upstairs window. Just once. And then it was gone. The door never opened again. Because the story was complete. Two sisters, separated by fear, finally reunited by love. And a goodbye that echoed softly, not in screams, but in silence. Weeks passed. Liam tried to return to normal life, but something stayed with him, the house. Even though it was silent now, he couldn't forget the voices, the shadows, or the final message carved on the step. One afternoon, he drove by it again. The windows were dusty, the garden was overgrown. But as he walked past, he noticed something strange. The front door was open, just slightly. He hadn't left it that way. He stepped onto the porch. The floor creaked beneath him. "Hello," he called out. No answer. He turned to leave until he heard it. A whisper, faint, like a child. "Mr. Buttons." His heart froze. That was Eliza's voice. But Eliza was free, wasn't she? He walked inside. The hallway was darker than he remembered. And then he saw it. A drawing, pinned to the wall, drawn with crayon. A little girl, standing next to a shadow. And beneath it, written in a child's hand, "He's not gone.